Hi, my name is Tamara Rodriguez Rugel, and I'm going to talk about a brief report Zika virus associated with microcephaly. About the definition, disease caused by the Zika virus, which is a flavivirus transmitted by the Aedes mosquito that was identified for the first time in macaques. Microcephaly is a medical condition in which the brain does not develop properly, resulting in a smaller than normal head. It may be present at birth or it may develop in the first few years of life.
Zika fever is a disease that is caused by the Zika virus that can be spread through mosquito bites. Some people experience no symptoms, while others report flu-like symptoms including muscle and joint pain, fatigue, fever, headache, and loss of appetite. The Zika virus can spread from an infected mother to her fetus during pregnancy or at delivery, and may cause subsequent birth defects. Currently, there is no vaccine or specific treatment for the Zika virus.
Applications in medicine. A widespread epidemic of Zika virus infection was reported in 2015 in South and Central America and the Caribbean. The epidemic began in September 2015 and continued to April 2017, for the total number of Zika cases reported of 107,870. For those confirmed Zika cases, there were nearly 20,000, a percentage of 18.5 suspected to be pregnant women, resulting in 157 confirmed cases of microcephaly in newborns report. The case of an expectant mother was studied. She had a febrile illness with rash at the end of the first trimester of pregnancy while she was living in Brazil. Ultrasonography performed at 29 weeks of gestation revealed microcephaly with calcifications in the fetal brain and placenta. After the mother requested termination of the pregnancy, a fetal autopsy was performed. Microcephaly was observed with almost complete ahiria, hydrocephalus, and multifocal dystrophic calcifications in the cortex and subcortical white matter, with associated cortical displacement and mild focal inflammation. Zika was found in the fetal brain tissue.
My name is Dr. William Dobbins. I'm a physician and scientist working at the Seattle Children's Research Institute. My formal training is in both genetics and neurology. Zika is a new emerging threat to humans all over the world. It particularly targets and attacks neural stem cells in preference to other cell types. A recent report just coming out this week from Johns Hopkins and several other universities on the East Coast showed that the Zika virus had a particularly predisposition to infect neural stem cells, or the cells in the brain that produce all of the other cells in the developing baby's brain. They're critical for the scaffolding that is needed to build a brain. And I've started collaborations with a group of physicians, experts in Brazil. Those doctors have so far shown me about 15 brain scans of children with Zika virus microcephaly. What I see is a pattern of birth defects of the baby's brain that I've seen only 4 or 5 times over 20 or 30 years. The abnormalities consist first off of microcephaly, and then when you start looking at their brain scans, you see that there is space between the baby's skull and brain, suggesting that the brain has been injured and actually shrunk. Third, you start seeing a birth defect of the cerebral cortex, and finally you see scattered calcifications, which is a sign of injury from an infection. The experts in Brazil and I now think that we can actually recognize the Zika virus-associated microcephaly simply from the brain scans and photographs of these children. The infections caused by Zika virus and by related viruses in adults are very mild infections. There was never a rationale to begin an expensive and intensive effort to develop a treatment. Well, we have that reason now, but developing a vaccine is never quick and easy, and so it's not going to happen in a few months. But clearly there's going to be a major effort to develop a vaccine, and I suspect we'll see something come forward within a year or two.
About the pros and cons. About the pros, the experience in Colombia, as well as other countries, provides an important epidemiologic example to predict risk to other countries. Another pro, these and other reports provide critical information for world, medical and community public health. About the cons, there is no vaccine to prevent Zika or medication to treat it.
For the first time in our area, a baby is born with Zika-related defects. Officials at Hackensack University Medical Center say a 31-year-old woman gave birth to a baby with microcephaly. It is only the second child in the U.S. to be born with that condition. The birth defect results in a smaller head size because of abnormal brain development.
Long term, because the brain doesn't develop, there are often developmental problems. And developmental problems can be severe, could be intellectual problems, it could be problems with sight, hearing, movement.
The mother is from Honduras. Hospital officials say she is asking for privacy at this time.
Issue applied in Ecuador. In Ecuador, there are 5,347 cases of Zika from 2016 to March 7, 2018. According to the Ministry of Public Health, MSP, 82.6% of them were women, of which 965 were pregnant. 3 cases of microcephaly associated with Zika were reported.
Ecuador has confirmed its first Zika case in a pregnant woman. The woman, aged 19 years, is in her 27th week of pregnancy. According to the country's National Institute of Public Health Investigations, the woman's baby is not at risk of being born with microcephaly, a disease that affects newborns.
We have confirmation for the first pregnant woman with Zika. This woman is at 27 weeks gestation, which would make her outside the high-risk time period for her baby to have microcephaly, because it's been determined that the risk is much higher, up to 14 weeks.
The country has confirmed 22 cases of the mosquito-transmitted virus, and concerns are running high that the disease could spread due to the weather patterns.
Considering we are facing an El Nino phenomenon, the amount of precipitation and the temperature has increased in the region where the vector is present. So, in light of this, the amount of vector we are going to have is much more elevated.
The World Health Organization recently declared the virus a global emergency and anticipates it to affect as many as 4 million people this year.
In conclusion, Zika is spread mainly through the bite of a mosquito of the Aedes species that is infected. It can also be transmitted through sexual contact without the use of a condom with an infected person or through vertical transmission from mother to child during pregnancy. A blood or urine test can confirm the diagnosis of infection. Infection with Zika virus during pregnancy has been linked to the occurrence of microcephaly via transplacental infection of the developing fetus and subsequent neuronal cell death. There is no vaccine to prevent Zika or medication to treat it. It can be prevented by avoiding mosquito bites. It is recommended the use of repellents and mosquito nets or air conditioning at bedtime.
She was so excited, but the birth of her second child left Rafaela Oliveira more alone than she could have imagined. At 3 months, Luis Felipe has a big appetite just like her first baby. But he was born with a small head and brain damage, microcephaly. People here react like he's got some contagious disease, she says. People look at him when they're in the street. There was no warning. Doctors only detected the disorder after Luis Felipe was born. What gives me strength is the love I feel for him, she says. Luis Felipe will need to be cared for his entire life. So she's doing this 3 times a week right now, taking her son to physical therapy, and yet she goes back to work in March. It's not clear how she's going to do this, and she's the only person in her family who has a job. Here in the state of Pernambuco, we've seen the heartache and the financial burden this is putting on families. More than 4,000 cases of newborn microcephaly have been reported in Brazil since Zika was detected less than a year ago. A third of them are here, where babies and moms face endless jabs and tests. Dr. Angela Rocha, one of the first to make the link between Zika and microcephaly. These babies have brain damage to differing degrees, which means inserting this generation into society is going to be very complicated, she says. Research continues to establish a cause and effect with the Zika virus, spread by the same mosquitoes that transmit yellow fever and dengue. There's no vaccine, no cure, which means the Aedes aegypti mosquito is public.
Thanks.